All right, everybody, welcome back to the DreamState Livin podcast. Today's a special day. I got Mike Romano here. I've been following Mike, and we've been connected by a mutual friend. I think maybe 2 years ago it was. Mike, so we've been seeing each other's journeys for about 2 years, and I've been really enjoying your content that you've been putting out, and I know a lot of other people have as well. So when I find people that are interesting to me, I bring them on the podcast. So, Mike, welcome.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. I love your content. Yeah, it was a couple years ago. Chase, my best friend, he was the best man at my wedding. He introduced me to your content. Love what he had to say about you. So, dude, I'm stoked to be here.
Let's go, man. I'm fired up as well. You had said something along the lines. We'll start here because I want to get into your faith, and I want to get into how you think, and I want to get into how you serve people right now. You said, "How crazy are we to think we can outcreate God?" And I just would love if you could elaborate on that.
Dude, I love that. I love that. I'm so stoked that that's the first thing that you asked. Because it is the foundation of the past 5 years for me. So I was not a spiritual dude whatsoever, and when I became spiritual, whatever you want to call that, when I had whether you call it an awakening, whether it's a slapping on the back of the head, whatever it was kind of just realizing I was the cause of all of most of my problems because of how I was thinking and how I was operating. And then what ends up happening is you go into personal development. After that, you get into spirituality. You start to meditate. It's just like that cycle of like going down the thing. And I got heavy into the create reality. And I think that, and like manifestation and law of attraction, and there is a lot of validity, right? Like there's a lot of validity in that type of work. It gives you a sense of control when you felt like you were out of control.
Mm.
And so, throughout that process, what ends up happening with a lot of people is a form of idolatry where it's like, I'm the one doing this. I got to pick myself up from my bootstraps. I'm the one creating my reality. And like, I'm the one that's forcing and grinding and doing this whole thing, which like, again, there is good in that, right? Like it gets you out of your own way. And it's like, hey, let's get on offense. Let's make it happen. The unfortunate side is kind of what I realize is like, a lot of that is just built on sand. And it's like, if I'm the one creating me, like, cool, like I can create my life. But if I surrender it to God, if I surrender my life to Christ and allow God to flow through me and allow God to flow through, the vessel and show me what I'm supposed to do, he's always going to have a better plan. He's always going to direct you into a higher calling rather than you with your limited brain trying to, manipulate and force and do all this stuff. Like, who are we to think that we can outcreate the highest creator? My mindset on it is like, hey, I'm just going to, it's kind of like, I'm a big sports guy, so I'm a huge Tom Brady fan, right? And he's the best, and so it's like I can throw a really good spiral. He could throw a 90-yard bomb downfield, back of the end zone, absolutely just precision, right? And so it's like, okay, backyard football. Do I want to play the role of the quarterback? I can, sure. I can create and I can do the stuff, and I could probably throw a pretty good lob like to one of my homies, but like it's Tom. Like he's the guy, you know what I mean? And so for me it's like, yeah, like I want a big life. I think everybody wants a big life. I think everybody wants the most that they could possibly get out of this life. And so for me it's like, hey, the more I submit, the more I surrender. And people think that that's like a like a passive thing, or it's a weak thing. It's like, no, it's actually the strongest thing you can do, you know what I mean? Because we all want that control, and we all feel like, no, I don't want to give up any type of control. But the strongest thing that you can do is give up that control to and tap in and listen to that intuition rather than thinking that you have all the answers, because you just don't, you know what I mean? Like that's just the reality.
Totally. Was
Yeah.
this through, and I really love how you said, the more I submit, the more I surrender. Now let's backtrack 5 years when maybe you were submitting did you learn this concept through practice when you were just like, wow, I'm trying the law of attraction, I'm trying all the spiritual things, but something's not clicking? And then when was it for you that it clicked?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've been in solar for the past 5 years, and my entire solar career was based on identity work and like law of attraction and all this stuff. It's like I'm the man, I'm the best. Like, and so like the affirmations were just cooking on my way to knock doors and like the whole thing, right? And so what ends up happening again, the whole built on sand thing, like I got a lot of results and I did really really good and I got promotions and that whole thing happened. What ended up happening is I was there's like certain markers per quarter for every sales organization. And I was about to hit one of the markers for like a lot of equity in a really big company, promotions, like it was like the pinnacle, like amount of installs per quarter. And I missed it by one. And so what that did is it took my entire identity and took it through a tailspin, and it made me realize the vulnerability of building my own identity and the lack of foundation I had on my own identity. And so it took me through a massive tailspin. Like I started going to church. I was like, and again, like this, it may sound small for certain people, but like if you put that much effort and that much input into, because I mean, door to door is a grind, right? Like it's
I
that type of thing.
won.
Yeah, you miss by one, and so it's like thousands and thousands of dollars in equity and like the recognition and the promotions that come with it, like the whole thing. And if you miss it by one, you're just like, dude, come on. And so it really really bruised my ego, and it bruised and it shattered this identity that I was building, because I was like, no, I'm 100% going to do it because this is the law, this is how it works. And again, I'll say it time and time again, like there is validity in the law of attraction and manifestation and all that stuff, like it works. I think what people miss on it is it's like, okay, again, I can create my reality. Sure, you can, and that's like a force and a hustle and a grind, and you're creating it based on masks that you put on yourself. Or you can remove all of those masks, you can surrender, you can come back to authenticity, and you come back to who you actually are, and that is divine flow. That is allowing Christ to flow through you. Myron Golden talks about, and I talk about this a lot with my guys in my mentorship. You have lie identity, my identity, and identity. The lie identity is the lie that everybody has told you about you. It's why you want to get out of your hometown. It's people from the outside telling you who you are. Okay, and that's what 95% of people live in. The my identity is, hey, I know that those are lies. I'm going to now create my reality. I'm going to put the masks on. I'm going to be successful. I'm going to get rich. I'm going to get in really good shape. I'm going to have amazing relationships. I'm going to have the Lambo, like whatever it is. That's great. Awesome. Like still cool. The the thing behind that, and I think it's a lot of what you see when you have all these people that have reached a very very high level of success, and then they're like, okay, this still isn't it. This isn't like the thing isn't the thing, and I thought the thing was going to be the thing, but it's not the thing. And that is where people go into the woods, or they go and study with monks, or they do whatever, and they do like a soul's journey. That is coming back to who you actually are. That is your true identity. That's authenticity. That's God flow. That's allowing God to flow through you rather than you trying to put all these different masks on. And so that's the journey that I feel like I'm currently in. Like again, like I was in San Diego. I had the life. I was in Del Mar. All my friends were there. Like and they're still all my friends, right? But it's like when I had a calling from God back in June telling me I had to move home, that was the heaviest thing that I think I've ever experienced. It was like, dude, I'm in San Diego. I don't want to be in Pennsylvania. I don't want to do any of that. And he was like, no, dude, you're gonna go into the woods, and you're going to sit with yourself, and you're gonna realize who you are, and you're gonna come back to who you actually are, rather than playing this funny game in San Diego where you're the rich solar dude. You know what I mean? Like, and it's a really humbling thing. Going back, we're almost a year later. That happened in June. We're now in April. a year later, it is the best decision I've ever made in my entire life. I focused on what I actually want to do with social media, building this whole mentorship that I've been wanting to do for years that I didn't do because I was focused on solar and the whole thing. And so it was like, oh my gosh, like this redirection I thought was going to be the end of it all. And I'm like, nope, I had my run in San Diego. And now it's like, oh my gosh, like you just teed me up. You had to separate me from this thing in order to actually go and do the thing. And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm getting fired up like talking about it, but like
Oh, I'm getting the
it's
chills over here
it's
hearing this.
dude, it's insane.
You're firing me up, and also I'm. This is the first time for the listeners that Mike and I have actually really talked for more than 5 to 10 minutes, but it's just
Yes.
crazy to see how connected our stories are. And I have 2 points on this that I want to dive into. The first is you missed it by one. Now, this goes, and a lot of us can connect to this, and we start to play this why me game, but you're a clear example of God did that on purpose because you were meant for something else. You were
Hmm.
meant for a different path, so you missed that by one for a reason, because if you hit that, then you would be the leader of this whatever,
Yeah.
you'd be equity, you'd be comfortable, and you'd kind of have the proverbial golden handcuffs on that would keep you there.
Yeah.
And then God was like, "Hey, Mike, you need to go to Pennsylvania." Like, no, I got these golden handcuffs on. I can't. And then you're rejecting the call to adventure. And then when we continuously reject the call to adventure, we stop hearing God. We stop
Yep.
hearing God.
100%. Yeah. a hundred
So
percent.
I would love if you could kind of tap on that feeling of, maybe when things happen to us, they're well, not maybe when things happen to us, whether it's good or bad, they're happening for us, and it's okay that we don't know why this is
Yeah.
happening right now.
100%. Yeah, it's a gnarly thing because like even when I came home, I was still, bucking the current of like no solar, solar, solar. And then and it's so crazy. Like even recently, I I moved to the Maryland office, okay, for this company. And then I went back to San Diego for a couple weeks to like meet with the leaders, meet with the boys. And I was like, you know what? Maybe like I am supposed to, be back out there. Like maybe I'm supposed to be doing like bi-coastal type thing. And like I met with my leader and like my leaders are literally the best. They're literally my best friends. They're amazing. And they gave me like this whole play out of like, hey, come out here for a little bit and then go back there and then come out here and like have like this bi-coastal lifestyle and it's great. And it again it sounded great, but then I came home and I'm like I just know, man. Like I just have this feeling that I just need to it's not the thing. I need to just sit here and I need to actually build the business. I need to follow the calling rather than doing that. And so it's like you you're I'm just such a firm believer that until you follow the calling and until you follow the thing that is gnawing at you in your head, you're going to be uncomfortable. You're going to, I think, quote unquote, suffer, right? Like whatever you want to call that. There's going to be that level of resistance. And it's not always going to be the thing that logically you're like, hey, this is the right decision or this is the wrong decision. Me moving home to Pennsylvania when I had a really, really good, I mean, I had an awesome team. I had like the whole thing in San Diego. It was beautiful San Diego. People are like, what are you doing? And so it's like, logically from the outside looking in, it's like, no, dude, you should probably stick with that, continue to do that. But when you have a pull, when you have a call, when your intuition is telling you to do something, you have to do it. Otherwise, you're going to feel uncomfortable. That's kind of what it is for me. Like when it comes to surrender, it's like it's not even like this like heavy thing, really. I don't. I mean, I think originally it was, but now it's like, dude, I'm gonna feel uncomfortable until I go along with what I'm being told to do and what my intuition is telling me to do and the feel. Kanye talks a lot about this. He's like, stop trying to like make all the plays and do all like the mental stuff. Like go based on feel, go based on heart. And but it's like it's that thing. And so for me, it's just like, man, if you're struggling, it tap into feel, tap into heart. And I know a lot of guys, especially like our age, the 20 to like 35, it's the F your feelings. It's, do the logical thing. It's very, very logic brain mindset. which again, logic is cool, but it's one of those things where I just feel like my intuition has gotten me so much further in life than just being a logic male brain guy.
Totally.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah, and we have
yeah,
like Hermosi's a great mentor for many, and I don't know if you saw that podcast with him and Tony Robbins. Uh,
yeah, yeah.
wow, and he
It's
was kind
just
of
two complete opposite guys too.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
and
amazing.
Tony kind of ripped him a new one, and he was open to it. That's what told us he's such a great leader because he was open to hear what Tony had to say. That was beautiful,
Yeah.
and it's interesting our stories are connected. I want to share something that's related. So, 2.5 years ago, I was in Northern California. You know how things were transitioning in California. I had my team, and I was in escrow on a house in Dallas, Texas. I put a
Okay.
down payment. Was about to buy a house in Dallas. Was going to create a solar house and run a team, run an office out of Dallas. I was at a museum, just tapping into the field and allowing like no phone, just at a museum, just allowing my thoughts to come up, talking to God, and I was meditating in this terrace, and a strong feeling comes to me, and it was like, don't buy the house, move to South America, and
Dude.
it was very strong. And in that moment, I knew because I had goals and I had dreams of moving to South America, learning Spanish, and following what seems to be a path for me. And at that moment, your brain starts to come out and think of, yeah, but why would I move to South America? Like, America is the land of opportunity. The United States, the land of opportunity. This is where I've made all my money. Why would I go there? And it was
Hmm.
like, don't try and figure out the how. Don't try and figure out the how. Just trust the intuition. And now here I am, and I'm the happiest I've been in a really long time. Yeah, I'm not like living this California solar lifestyle, but I'm starting to see the path that God had laid out for me. And if I didn't follow that intuition, I'd have a $4,000 mortgage in Dallas, Texas, and maybe I would be rejecting the call to stay in solar, and I'd have to kind of figure that out, and I'd have a lot of pressure on me.
Hmm.
So that was a little connected, and I wanted to bring up another thing on this point, and I just love where this is going to. But we
Dude, it's
we
sick.
we're talking about. I have this concept that I teach a lot with DreamState and the things that I do. But when I first work with someone, we identify what their current center is. So what it is
Hmm.
that you are currently centered upon, and what you had brought up was a really good example because if you, Mike Romano, were centered upon your money and your acknowledgement in business, and you had missed this great achievement by one, well, you would completely lose your identity and your worth because you were only
Yeah.
centered upon that. Now, people can be centered upon their spouse, meaning if my wife is no longer showing me love and affection, well, my whole life is in shambles. If my crypto account is not up here, then my whole life is in shambles. This was leads to the classic adage of the millionaire jumping off a bridge because he lost all of his millions.
Yeah.
And what I like to focus on, having a center on God, spirit, and values and principles. I'm curious your thoughts on that and if you utilize a similar framework or a different framework for yourself.
Yeah, I'm massive on, I mean, it's from the, Christian lens, it's like seek first the kingdom. You know what I mean? I think that you if you stray and if you live in flesh, then you're always going to be chasing more fleshly desires. And there's nothing, like I always say, like, there's nothing wrong with material. Material is part of the experience. You know what I mean? Like, whether it is the cars, whether it's nature, whether it's the big house, or whether it's, small house with like whatever it is, there's good in all of that because that is your divine expression. That is God is trying to express something through us. So preference is a really, really good thing. My whole thing is always stillness, presence with God, whether it's the Bible, whether it's whatever your practice is, it is, I want to be as close with God as humanly possible. I think a lot of people, they think this whole fear God mentality. It's like, I heard a definition of that because I never really understood it. It's like, dude, God's the homie, and he's like he's given us life, he's given us the experience. Why would I fear him? And someone described it as fearing God is being away is fear being away from God or being apart from God. And I was like, wow, that is a very different explanation than I got from other people, right? So it's like my fear, and the only fear, is if I am separate from God, because I know that if I am connected with God, things go well, things turn out well, things just naturally end up working out. It's just how it is. And then the further I get away from God, and that's kind of where it was with like with solar. Again, it was like I was relying on me, you know what I mean? Mike was relying on Mike, and when that happens, things don't go great. And I think that's when a lot of people have anxiety and worry and doubt and limitation and all of these different things that people experience, is because they're relying on themselves. And it's like, cool, you could try that for sure, but there's such a higher force and such a higher power and a higher energy that you can align with. And one of the things that I say all the time is like, see you how God sees you, like align your mind with how God sees you. And it is the good feeling thoughts, it's natural well-being, it's abundance, it's prosperity, it's all of that stuff. Like, feeling good feels good for a reason. It's a real thing. It's an emotional guidance system. And so the more you get closer to that and sit in that, rather than worrying in flesh and worrying on this self-limitation or depreciation or shame or get whatever it is, the better off you're going to be. So it's always a coming back to God. It's always centering yourself in how he sees you, how he sees your life, how he sees your situation, knowing that he is there, not even from like a mystical or like in the clouds type thing, but like, no, he is within, you know what I mean? Like, he is very much in this present moment at all times. And the acknowledgement of him and you acknowledging that is always going to bring you back to center.
Mm. There's this aphorism: God lies in the pause, and you had mentioned stillness. And what I see, it's it's very easy. The devil has the world in handcuffs right now with a lack of stillness because of the access to social media,
Yeah.
stimulants, and all of these things. So, what for someone who's watching that maybe has those, like they're like, man, I can't even sit still for 10 minutes. They did a study. I don't know if you heard this. I learned this recently. They did a study and they asked a group of people, college students, would you rather sit in a room for 30 minutes without your cell phone or get shocked by electricity? Like 80% of them took the electric shock versus sitting
Insane.
in a room by themselves.
That's
So,
great.
where would you say someone could start getting into this stillness and
Yeah.
quiet the mind and let God speak?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So that's the first thing that we do with my mentorship. And it's the first thing that my mentor, his name is Nick, he's absolute beast. Like, he's a big business mentor. He
Last
had Nick Comodina.
yeah, I know this guy.
Love that guy, dude. He's has helped me, like, from an identity standpoint and from a like business perspective. Oh my gosh, he's helped me so much. Like, his container is one of the craziest things. Like, the amount of like wins and everything. Like, I highly recommend looking into him. But um, from the first thing that he does, the first thing that I do, and I've adopted it just because it completely changed my life, is a 30-day dopamine detox, and it is gnarly. Pretty much how he explains it. And I'm going to try not to butcher this, but he talks about how your body is like a horse and your brain is like the rider of the horse. And what we all have is we have all of these stimulants at all times, whether it's your phone, whether it is any type of vices, music with lyrics, podcasts, everything is you're just consuming at all times. This dopamine detox is the removal of all of it. He's like, no books, no podcasts, no music with lyrics, no vices, no caffeine, no drugs, no nothing. Like, absolutely nothing. Like, sit with yourself, brother. And it's one of those things where I'm like, oh my gosh, dude. And at the time I was knocking doors, and if you know anything about knocking doors, it's like, what? Like, you're telling me I can't have 3 energy drinks throughout my day? Like, what do you mean? and so
Can't
and
listen to
so it was
rap
like,
music before I get on the doors. What?
yeah. And so you're just like, what? Okay. And so like the first couple days, exactly like the horse thing, it's like you have like a wild horse as a body that is like bucking and it wants that stimulate. It's craving it. The hardest thing for me, like I was addicted to my phone. I've honestly, started to teeter back into it. I need to actually do one, but he said put your phone on a grayscale and watch what it does to your brain. And so you put it on a grayscale and there's no dopamine. Well, not no, but there's little dopamine coming from your brain or coming from your phone because there's so many colors and everything on your phone that is just giving you hits of dopamine that you don't even realize. And then when you put it on a grayscale, you're just like, oh my gosh, I don't even want to look at my phone. And it makes you realize like that is crazy. So I did this 30-day detox and oh my gosh, like it is what is I think has unraveled into my content because when I was doing maybe like 2 or 3 pieces of content, I would say a day. Like I've always been borderline consistent. Like there's days I was doing, I would do like 3 or 4 pieces and then I wouldn't do it for a couple days. And then once I did that, like the flow started to flow and I started to get revelation and I started to hear that internal voice and it's like, hey, go do this. And then the thought to action sequence is like, whenever you have that inspiration, I mean, this is kind of just a tip for content, but like whenever you have that revelation, get in front of a camera as much as humanly possible, right? Like get it as fast as possible. And so that is where my content started to where I started to do a ton of content because I was getting a ton of revelation throughout my day. Like I would be sitting with my wife, I'm like, I gotta go do a piece of content. Sorry. Like and I would like rush downstairs. But the detox, like that, it's completely changed my life because
Mm.
the biggest thing is any type of fasting or any type of like cutting yourself off from the thing that your brain wants is going to allow you to come back. That is what denial of the flesh is, or dying to the self. It's like you are dying or you're removing all of the things that the flesh wants and you're coming back to center. You're coming back to God. You're coming back to Christ. Whatever you want to talk like there's so many different words about the exact same thing that we're all talking about. You know what I mean? It is the removal of external and coming back to that which is within and connecting with that.
Mm. Let's talk about the word surrender. When a lot of people hear this word surrender, and let's think about this age gap that we talked about before, 20 to 35, almost overstimulated, to have trouble sitting in stillness. I think people think surrender with weakness. So, what does true surrender look like for you in your world?
That's such a good question. Um, so I always think of it, and I talk a lot of my content about especially in like a solar industry or sales industry, you have work hard, you know, love work, action's great, and grind, force, hustle, stuff like that. Which again, cool. Like there's that aspect. Um, I think that people who think that submission or surrender is the easier path has never surrendered. It is a very, very hard thing because as a male in your 20s or 30s, you're like, I want to sprint as far and fast as humanly possible and grow and be this absolute, monster superhuman, right? And there's again nothing wrong with that. I submit to everybody listening that the surrender process is you taking a step back and instead of you making the plays, it's allowing God to make the plays. I think it's Tom Brady being the one that calls the play at the 20-yard line instead of you being like, you know what? I think I know the next step. You know what I mean? And so that process is very challenging. It was very challenging for me to be like, hey, you know what? Mike doesn't know it all, and that's a hard thing to hear from yourself and a hard thing to understand. But when you admit that to yourself and when you tell yourself, hey, I don't know it all, and I'm going to tap in and I'm going to, sit and meditate. And that's why meditation is so hard for a lot of people, because they love their brain, they love their mind, they love what they're thinking about. They are obsessed with self, and they think that self is right because we have confirmation bias, and our brain always wants to tell us that we're right all the time, right? And so to sit in meditation and allow the horse to settle instead of it being a wild horse, allowing it to settle and allowing that mind to come up and to start taking direction from the higher mind rather than the self-limited mind is a very, very hard thing for people. That's
Mm.
just the reality. And so the more you practice it, obviously the easier it is. And then the more, I mean, just in my experience, I'm a big results guy, right? Like I'm a big fruits guy. Like, and if the fruits of my life are getting better by me listening to that guy, which is the inner mind, I'm probably gonna just continue to listen to that guy. Like, again, I'm a very logical guy when it comes to like the emotional and the spiritual side. Like I have to have I have to be logical with it, and a lot of it is very like whimsical, and whether you call it woo woo, I don't think any of it's woo woo. I think it's honestly the most real stuff that in my experience. But from a logical standpoint, it's like, hey, we're judging on fruits, you know what I mean? That's the reality. And I can't take, if something's not working, then I'm not going to continue to listen to it. And the more that I follow the intuition, this inner voice, the more that it's leading me this way, and the results are just proving themselves. And I'm like, okay, well, it probably makes a little more sense to listen to that versus listen to Mike. So,
Yeah.
um,
And it makes sense for you because you've gotten the fruits and you've seen the proof of it in your life. And I really like how you were saying that surrendering is not an easy process. If you think it's going to be easier when you start surrendering, you're wrong. And I think people can say I'm surrendering, but they're actually just being lazy. They're saying I'm surrendering, but they're just being lazy. So
mhm.
true, when you really surrender, is there a part of you that's just like, oh, I got to
Yeah,
do this now, and man, I don't know if I actually want to do this, but I got to.
yeah. Yeah, I think to that, like I think, and this kind of goes into like path of most resistance versus path of least resistance. I'm a firm believer. I'm gonna blow your brain if you've never heard this. So, path of least resistance is, and that I don't know if you know who Abraham Hicks is. Do you know who Abraham Hicks is?
Yeah, of
Love
course.
her. She's amazing. She's who I grew up with in like the spiritual like type thing.
Yeah, I love how you call
She
her Abraham as well. For those
Oh
who
yeah.
don't.
I call her Honest Abe. Like, cause I'm like, you're man, you're speaking to me right now. But she talks about path of least resistance and path of most resistance, and I'm a firm believer that path of least resistance is the path of most allowance, and that is allowance of you going towards your goals or you going towards your desire. Most people think that laziness is path of least resistance. It's not. Path of least resistance is you getting in alignment with who you want to be and get going. You know what I mean? Like that's whenever I am getting, for me, like my goals are get in shape, make money, have a great family, build a big life. Like that's sick. Whenever I'm in alignment with that, that's my path of least resistance.
Mm.
My path of most resistance is me sitting on the couch thinking I should be doing stuff. That's me beating up on myself. That's me being self-absorbed and thinking, oh no, I don't have to do that. And it's like, no, dog, like that is what makes you feel tense. When you know what you should be doing and you're not doing it, you feel tense, you feel resistance. That is path of most resistance. That is that is dis-ease of the cells. That causes disease in the brain and the body, right? And so the path of least resistance is okay, how can I align myself with one, how God sees me. He always sees me as good. It's always the good feeling thoughts. That's why good feeling thoughts feel good, because it's more in alignment. It's more in harmony with how God sees me. Bad feeling thoughts feel bad. Self-depreciating thoughts feel bad because it's out of alignment. It's in friction with how God sees me. That's just, again, emotional guidance. And so if I can do that, then I'm going to naturally take action to where I want to go. Okay. Instead of sitting on the couch and feeling a level of heavy resistance, it's surrendering to the flow. It's surrendering to where you want to go rather than people thinking, hey, surrender is just sitting on the couch and hoping it happens. Like
Mm.
that feels miserable. You know what I mean? Like that sounds awful. Like if I want to go along with my goals and my aspirations, I'm going to get in the gym. I'm going to go and work on the business. I'm going to go and create content because it's what I want to do. It is the life that I want to live rather than being afraid, which afraid always is going to just keep you on the couch.
Yeah.
It's just how it works, you know what I mean? And so the more I align myself with how God sees me, the more I surrender into the way he sees me rather than I see me, because I see me as flawed all the time. And this is kind of goes into like sin and all of this different stuff. Again, like I have a very like energetic mental frame on Christianity. So I've like I kind of blend the two because and I see the resemblance in all of it, right? So it's like when it comes to sin, the sin is in the mind. The sin is just seeds of the mind that are bad seeds that always, bring you back to the flesh and you seeing yourself in a lower state. But if I align myself with how God sees me, I have infinite energy and I can move around and do all of these different things because I'm in that powerful state. It's the
Mm.
difference between operating to the cross versus from the cross. From the cross is knowing your divinity, remembering who you are, remembering how God sees you, and operating from that rather than operating to the cross. And that's kind of where like the from the cross, like this whole brand is like instead of operating to the cross, it's you're trying to do works in order to get better, which is where I think a lot of Christians operate from. They're trying to do works in order to get to God. It's like, no, God is already in you. You're already divine. You just have to remember who you are and align yourself with how God sees you, and you will move absolute mountains. You will dominate, right? And I think that's what we need a lot more of. There's a lot of people that operate towards the cross and they're trying to reach for salvation and they're trying to reach for God when it's like, dude, God has been in you this entire time, dog. If you remember that, if you understand that, if you know your divinity, if you know who you are, if you know how God sees you, if you read the scripture and you read the word of how he sees you, you will demolish. You will crush. And again, it's not always about, you know, like making the most money. It's not about all that stuff, but it's like there is a divine expression that is flowing through you. And if you get in tune with that, if you tap into that, if you align with that, oh my gosh, your life is going to explode. I'm again like fruits, right? Like it's not a bragging thing. It's not, I don't mean that in any type of way, but like for me and for most people that are going to listen to this, it's fruits. It's hey, does this person have the results that I want?
Mm.
Is this person living in accordance with how I want to live? Okay, I'm going to listen to his advice, and that's what it's always been for me. And so like I listen to guys like Myron Golden, who I don't know. Do you know who Myron Golden is?
I don't, but I'll research them after this pod.
Absolute beast. He's like a business, very biblical business entrepreneur guy, like big time guy. But he talks about all that. He talks about like just like divine expression and all that. But yeah,
Mm. Abraham Hicks wrote a whole book about this idea of ask and receive. And I love
yeah,
when she's very playful with this. Is like you ask, but you forget to receive. And I think that's kind
yeah,
of where we're going down. The asking is a little bit of the lazy part. And we can ask and think we're connecting to God by asking, but then when God delivers, we don't receive. We push back, maybe because of past beliefs and neural networks and the fear of going forward. But receive, man, like take the abundance,
yeah,
receive. Let's go. It's
100%. Yeah,
here. Receive it.
yeah. People push back on that so much because it's like no, I have to do this and this in order to feel good, and then I'm not going to allow myself to feel good until I get to this spot, so I have to suffer in order to. And it's like if you suffer your entire way towards your goal, you're just going to be miserable at your goal. Like the amount of people that are like, dude, my goal didn't feel good once I got there. I'm like, bro, well, because you were miserable the whole
Yeah.
time, dog.
Well,
Like you.
this is gonna segue perfect. So, Mike, now that I have this, I can finally do this, and I can finally be this guy. Now you flip
Mhm.
this on its complete head. Let's get into the be do have.
I love that, dude. So be do have is a biblical principle. Okay. And again, I'm big on Myron Golden. So whoever's listening to this, if you know who Myron Golden is, a lot of the stuff it matches. Be do have is biblical. Be fruitful, do multiply, have dominion. That's Genesis 1:28. That's the first thing that he told us to do. So like in the manual, it's first thing. You know what I mean? So what happens is, and I saw this in my sales career, it's like, hey, do a bunch of stuff, knock a bunch of doors, have all this stuff, and then you can be a leader, or you can be this guy, right? You can be like the guy, the top of the leaderboard, or whatever it is. And I'm like, okay, cool. When did that? And what ends up happening is it's just a continuous race. It's a carrot and a stick mentality. It's go chase, have. And then when you be, it's like, yeah, like I got stuff, but I still don't feel really good. And it just kind of it drains you, right? Like there's a lot of burnout and there's a lot of stuff that comes with that. The opposite of be do have is like, okay, let's start with, and I always use a tree analogy. Let's start with the seed, right? An apple seed can't bear oranges. And so the seed or your identity is the most important most important aspect of what people should focus on when it comes to personal development. I'm a firm believer in that. The do is cool, and that's where like consistency and discipline and all that stuff come into play. But if you are the people who need the most discipline don't have the identity because that's why they need discipline. They're trying to do something that's out of alignment with their identity. Why not focus on the inner work? Why not focus on the internal? Why not change the seed? If you want apples, become the apple seed. You know what I mean? Your whole focus is the internal work. And I think that's what a lot of your work is too. It's like your work it's all the inner stuff. And so B is the seed. How can we align ourselves with one, our most authentic selves, how God sees us, and move towards our preferences? Once we align ourselves, and this is what I call the divine mind, once we align ourselves and we have that firm foundation in Christ and knowing who we are in Christ, the do is a byproduct, and this goes into servant sales. So for selling, a lot of people, what they think is I'm trying to bring in, I'm trying to bring in, I'm trying to get a deal, I'm trying to make money, I'm trying to pull in. I think that is backwards energy. Okay. I think the more you pour out because of who you are is going to bear fruit. So a seed is going to grow or do, it's going to become a tree, and then it's going to bear the fruits of that seed. And so an apple tree or apple seed is going to grow into an apple tree and is going to bear apples. From a human standpoint or a sales standpoint, for example, if you know who you are in Christ, you are already whole, you are already complete, you are already worthy, you are going to naturally pour value into people. You're naturally going to pour out rather than try to bring in, because a bringing in is just trying to fill a hole, and it's a God-shaped hole. Hate to, kill the ending of it, but that's the reality. And so the do is, hey, how can I, from this place of being complete, how can I pour that out into people? You're like the person who's the most confident wants everyone else around them to be hyper confident. The person who's super happy wants everyone around them to be super happy. You're always pouring out what you have within. And so it's like instead of thinking you're not good enough, which is you're trying to fill yourself up, you are now, hey, I'm complete. I am whole already. I understand who I am in Christ. And so naturally, I am going to pour out into people. I'm going to give as much as humanly possible. And I've noticed this even in my sales career. The more I'm out serving, pouring value, chopping it up with people, having a good time, giving value instead of, hey, I need to knock this many doors
Mm.
in order to get this many sales, and I'm going to have the biggest week of my life. Like every time I think I'm going to have the biggest week of my life, and I go out and just do heavy workload, I have the worst week of my life. Every time I go out and pour value into people because I know who I am and I know the value that I bring, fruit. It's just how it works. So for anybody in sales, pour, and the faucet of abundance it opens up. So
Mm. Yeah, that's huge. You said we're all different masks of the same awareness. and this was an interesting one. I would love if you could elaborate on that.
Yeah, that's huge, dude. That's a Neville Goddard thing. So, do you know who Neville Goddard is?
Of Neville Goddard.
Such a good guy. So he also blew my mind. So I would my two backgrounds I think is like in understanding is Abraham Hicks and Neville Goddard. And then Joseph Rodriguez is actually like a podcast type. Well, he's kind of like he's a YouTube guy, but he like breaks down a lot of these principles. And so like I listen to him a lot. But Neville Goddard says it is like the rich man, the poor man, the beggar, and the thief are all different interpretations of the same awareness. So me and you, Ethan, behind Ethan and behind Mike is the awareness of the experience that we are having. And so that awareness is in all of us. That is it. We are all the same awareness. We are all the understanding that we are having an experience. Now, Mike may have different perceptions, different beliefs, different preferences that he has, different things that are going on in his life. And Ethan may be in a different part of the world and having his different beliefs and experiences and his different identities and things that, the human suit that he puts on. But at the end of the day, we are all the same awareness, right? And I think that awareness, and that's where like meditation and a lot of stillness comes into play. It's like understanding that you are that awareness. I think that is a I don't want to say portal because I don't want to make it like woo woo, right? But it's the reality. The more you become present, the more you center yourself, the more, in my experience, the more that voice comes through and the more that intuition comes through and that the connection is clear. The more I operate in Mike or you operate in Ethan as these egos of, hey, we are going to go and do this thing and build this Mike character. The more I do that, the worse off I am. That's just the reality. The more I stay in awareness of the experience, the more it flows through. I think that's the best way to explain it without getting super woo woo. I'm trying to make it as practical as humanly possible, but yeah, Neville he blew my mind. So when I was in San Diego before I was doing solar, I was in like modeling and acting. And I'll share this through a story of how it changed my life. So I was doing modeling and acting in 20 I would say like 2019 through the end of 2020 before I moved to Arizona, and I was trying to be a model and actor, right? I was trying to break into the industry. I was a guy outside operating from, or I was not from, sorry, I was operating towards the thing that I wanted to do. I was trying to accomplish my goal. I heard that quote, the rich man, the poor man, the beggar, and the thief are all different interpretations of the same awareness. And I'm like, okay, well, if the rich man and the poor man have the same awareness, it is just the mask that they are playing. Well, if I am trying it right now, I'm currently playing a character of trying to do this. What would happen if my awareness or my identity shifted to no, I'm a model, I'm just in the early phases and I am doing the things in order to get there? When that happened, when that mental shift happened, I started getting leader a lot easier. I come from a big family. That's why I wanted to do model and acting because it was like the other end of the spectrum. Like I come from like big family, like a lot of my family is over like 400 pound, like big family. So it was the other side. And so I naturally started dropping weight. I naturally started taking actions that were through hustle and discipline and force. It was just, no, this is just what I naturally do. Like, and there wasn't as much resistance in my body to go and do the things. Random things started popping up in my email. I got signed to my first agency in Orange County. And then I got signed to my second agency in San Diego, then got signed to my third agency in LA. I ended up on a billboard, ended up in Warner Brothers movies. Like things started happening and I'm like, okay, so this, if I can do this on this scale, then what makes me think that I can't do this on this other stuff? You know what I mean? And so it's like it was just like that understanding, which completely broke my brain. And again, it wasn't anything that I wasn't doing for the years and years that I was trying to like build my portfolio and do all that different stuff. It was a shift in identity and a shift in who I believed I was that created certain results in my life. It was again, it's like, whether you call it a portal or whatever you want to call it, it's like who you are operating from is way more important than what you are doing, quote
Mm,
unquote. Like you can grind and hustle and do different actions in a door, like from a door to door sense. You can operate from being a top performer, or you can try to be a top performer. Those are two very, very different things. You know what I
mm,
mean? You can try to go and be really good, or you can be really good and then take action. I
mm.
think that's the easiest way to explain it.
One concept that Neville talks about a lot is uh, installing it as a memory and then looking back on it instead of looking forward to it. So is this kind of what you're getting at, and what you did with your modeling and acting career? Is you started to look back on Mike as a successful Warner Brothers actor and model,
Yeah.
and yeah, I'll let you elaborate there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's where like a lot of like visualization comes into play. Like at the time, especially in the beginning parts of COVID, I would do like hour, 2 hour meditation, visualization. Like I would kind of like do a little bit of both. And I would see myself in front of cameras and I would see myself doing well, and I wouldn't it to be honest, like it was almost like an escape thing. That's what I saw it as at first, because I was like, dude, this feels way better than, in my dreams or in my visualization. I feel like I'm living a way better life than I am in reality, because at the time I wasn't doing anything. And so I was visualizing and I was like, dude, this is sick. Like I'm in front of cameras and I'm doing my thing. And again, like there's a lot of like vanity in that industry for sure. And at the time, that's what, and the ending of that was I didn't feel fulfilled, and so that wasn't the thing. But this goes to show like the manifestation and that type of thing. There is validity in it. You know what I mean? It just doesn't fulfill you. That's the reality. And so but that's what I was doing. It was a lot of visualization. It was a lot of me seeing myself already as that which I want to become. It goes back to that one saying that changed my life. It's again, rich man, poor man, beggar, and the thief, all different interpretations of the same awareness. So it's, hey, we are awareness. Okay, well, what character do you want to play? Who do you want to be? My recommendation is always going to now it's always going to align with how God sees you, instead of you trying to play this other character. But um, it is, yeah, there's a ton of validity in it.
Yeah. I just launched something. I'm calling it the Future Authoring Project, that I've been building out for people, where I use this Neville Goddard style language and all this work that I've done for myself for the past decade. And I'm
Yeah,
creating programming. I'm creating audios for people that come into my container. And there's a morning and a night programming right before, while we're in the dream state, while we're in theta state. And it's exactly this. I'm getting people in a state with their goals. Like I'm identifying through psychoanalysis what it is that you want, not what
yeah,
society makes you think you know. What do you actually want? And then we're building out and we're getting them to author this. And we're
yeah.
getting them to sit in it and to look back on it. No, not what it's going to feel like to get this goal in 6 months. What would it be like a year after you received it? And you're like, man, I can remember when I didn't have this. And you
Dude,
get
that's
into that
amazing.
standpoint.
Yeah, it's so crazy you brought that up, because about a week and a half to 2 weeks ago, and it's something that I'm still currently doing. I forget. I was watching a video, but it was talking about how your voice and you telling yourself something is so much more powerful than somebody else um telling you something, right? And I knew that from sales, but what it got me thinking is like, um what if I made a letter or made an audio to myself where I was talking to my current self and explaining what my life is in 5 years. And so what I did is I wrote out this script of like, dude, Mike, you won't believe it. Like, I know you're going through it right now, or no, whatever. But dude, you have no idea how crazy it is right now. This is like me from like 2030, and I would go down the list of like relationships, finances, like where I'm living, like what I'm doing. Like, I'm like, dude, the business, the mentorship, it absolutely blew up. Like, it's all of these things, and like I'm listening to it, and like it's such a crazy feeling when you're hearing it. And again, there's like woo woo to it, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, dude, you're just like talking to yourself, you know what I mean? You could see it like that, but you could also actually dive into it, and you could actually make it transformative, and give you that, instead of like, man, I hope this works out. It's like, no, dude, like it's gonna work out. Like, it's a different state of operating from. Like, if you do content and you're like, I hope this works out, versus like, no, I know this is going to work out. I know it's going to help people. I know it's going to touch lives. I know it's going to create transformation. It's a completely different way of going about your life, right? And so, if I just know that, you know if I'm going to believe more of what is being said through my voice than someone else's voice, then my best bet is to paint the vision of what I want in the future and talk to myself from that future, and guide, and guide it, right? Like that
From it.
that's my best, yeah, from that, it's guiding from that state. That's my best bet
Mm.
of making it happen, you know what I mean? Subconscious reprogramming, and all of that stuff, it's insane stuff, and it works, you know what I mean? And it's all, again, it's all the same. Like, whether you talk about programming, whether you talk about like Neville Goddard, assumption, attraction, faith, like all of this like stuff, it is all one and the same. I think the only difference is, are you following the ego's path, and are you following your self gratification, which always leads to lack of fulfillment? Or are you tapping into God? And are you following God's design for your life? Because it is always a better design. It is
Mm.
always a better thing than what you think that you are capable of, right? Like, I think that's the only thing. One leads to idolatry, one leads to, I'm doing this myself, I can do it myself, and it leads to a lot of suffering, because the reality is, you're not that strong. Like, as humbling as that is. The other is, hey, I'm going to tap into God's design. I'm going to see me how he sees me. I'm going to align my identity with that, so it's built on a firm foundation, and then I am going to walk in assumption. I'm going to act in assumption with that, rather than the egoic, fleshly, self-depreciating, anxiety-ridden, I am going to try to do this on my own strength self. You know what I mean?
Mike, this was incredible. How can people stay connected with you and get involved with what you're doing?
Yeah, so my Instagram and my TikTok are at the Mike Romano. We do discovery calls, and we do a masterclass call every Monday night at 9 p.m. It is very directed towards sales. But just reach out. I'm a human being. So just shoot me a DM.
Oh, man. Thank you for being here today, bro. I really appreciate it. This was incredible.
Dude, thank you, Ethan. This was an amazing conversation. I love it, dude.
Let's roll. Bye, everybody.
See ya.